Okay, I'm curious. I want to know why you're here. I want a couple of people to share. Just put your hand up and we'll bring a microphone to you and just share quickly why you're here. I'm just curious. I want to know why you're here. We'll start down the back here with this ma'am in the second last row. Yep, far away. Stand up and we'll hear why you're here. What's your name, sorry?
My name is Yoshi.
How do I say that?
Yoshi.
Yoshi.
Yeah, like the one in Mario.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, so I have to share because, why I'm here. Yes, sure. The reason I'm here because I'm gonna learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna add value to what I'm doing, and I'm just gonna grow financially.
And is there anything in specifically that you want to learn? Anything in?
Yes, I really want to know more about property because I'm really interested to learn more about making more money from property.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Give her a huge hand. Who else? Down the front row just here. Why are you here? I'm just curious why you're here. Far away.
Hello everyone, my name is Max and I am here so I can further strengthen my winner psychology, get some investment strategies and maybe rediscover my life's purpose.
Very good.
Thank you.
Give Max a hand. So in life, is it to get what you want is a good idea to know what you want, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, and as far as the life purpose, after lunch today, I'll take you through a process. If you're not clear about your life purpose, that will certainly help you get clear about it. For some of you already have done some work on that, sort of help you just get more clarity around that. But it's critical. My life changed the day that I focus on not me, but focus on contribution. I'll talk about that tomorrow morning as well, but when I focus on contribution and how I can add value to the world, that was a changing point in my life. Who else wants to share? Let's go over here. I'm just curious why you're here, far away.
Hi, my name's Colin.
Colin?
A couple of years ago, a cousin of mine sent me that book, What I Didn't Learn at School but Wish I Had. I was still in high school at the time. I've read through a couple of pages. I don't want to brag, but throughout primary school and high school, my grades were pretty up there. But what happened was...
and did they stay up there after reading my book?
No. But no, there's nobody to blame for this. I think my direction of life has changed after reading it. I sort of focused on more investment side of things. So I started reading a lot of Richard Branson's books, your books, Think and Grow Rich. There's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a really good book. But I'm still studying. Recently, I just started a business. It's launching on the 7th, so I'm here to actually learn more and see how to kickstart my business. Thank you.
Very good. Colin, a hand. Who else has read my book, What I Didn't Learn at School But Wish I Had? Who's read that? Okay, most of you. It's a good summary of some of the things that we're going to go through today as well. Who else wants to share? I'm curious. Maybe, yes, let's go here. I'll start there and then we'll go here. Okay, we'll go here and then we'll go there. We'll go wherever. Far away. Why are you here?
My name's Georgina and me and my partner are here from Auckland.
Oh, fantastic.
Any
other Kiwis in the house? Any other Kiwis?
Yeah.
God bless the Kiwis.
I think the big reason that we're here this
That
weekend...
means, I'll just clarify before you continue. When I shared before that if you migrate to Australia, you're 4 times more likely to become a self-made millionaire, I haven't been able to confirm if that Kiwis count in that. So I can't be sure about that. But for the rest of you, anyhow.
The big reason we're here is for years we've done these types of things, put a lot of money into personal development, but it's come down to the action. And we kind of realised it's not knowing the strategies, it's the mindset, and that's what we've really struggled with. Like every year, this is the year we're going to do it, and every year it's like, oh, next year. So yeah, that's really what we're looking for here today, is to make action and stop procrastinating.
That's very good. Give her a hand. Which is so critical because, it's that frustration, but it's coming out of that. People say, was it more inspiration what inspired you to change your life? In my case, it was not inspiration that changed my life, it was frustration. Being so frustrated and so pissed off with my circumstances that I hit a threshold and that's enough. I can't handle this anymore. And you hit a threshold and you just make new decisions and you move on. But sometimes we get stuck before we hit there. We don't have enough pain. And that's what we'll look at after lunch, how I'll take you through a process to attach enough pain to force you to change. The things that are holding you back, but link enough pleasure to the things that you need to do. Because once we can rewire our subconscious mind, it doesn't have to be hard work. It can be almost effortless. It's just, life should be a journey. I think a spiritual journey, an adventure, where things flow. And if you, I had the good fortune earlier this year to be invited to meet Oprah Winfrey. Is there any Oprah fans in the room? All the women put their hand up. Guys are like, why do people were so into Oprah? It was amazing though to meet her and to see, and also she invited me to listen to her speak in Canada in front of 15,000 women. And women just, to meet Oprah, they just, grown women that could normally talk, just can't talk. She's this amazing woman. But she was sharing an important story, which I completely forgot now. What were you talking about before that? There's something about Oprah that she shared, a really good story. Yes. So when I'm talking about life should be a spiritual adventure, so she talks about what made her life the way it is and the amazing life that she's lived, and she's impacted many people and had a huge impact on the world, and one of the most influential people on the planet. And she was saying that in life it's critical to listen to the whispers of the universe. And to be awake and listen to the whispers of the universe, all those little guideposts or signals in our life if we follow intuition that are there to guide us in the right direction. And you're saying how if we don't listen to the whispers of the universe, then often we get a pebble thrown our way. And the pebble's there to notice and pay attention and use it as a guiding force of where we should go. And she said if you don't take notice of the pebble, then you'll get a brick thrown at you. Okay, isn't it true? There's a brick, and then sometimes, if you don't pay attention to the brick, or you're a really slow learner, then that's when the Mack truck usually arrives. So the goal in life is to be intuitively open to noticing what's working and what's not, or looking for those signals or guiding posts in our life. So our life should flow more than where we need to try and force things to happen. And because a lot of people are trying to force things to happen, and you can't manifest by forcing something to happen. We just have to allow it to flow, but we have to be open to possibilities, and we have to be listening, and listening consciously, not just subconsciously. Does it make sense? So what's great about this program, it is very action orientated, because I know what will change your life is the actual action steps, and it's very practical based. So you'll see a lot of the strategies are quite practical, and that's critical because you've got to have that practicality. There's no point just being motivated and inspired but not having a strategy. So there's two things, jot it down very quickly, there's two things. You need the mindset and psychology, which is about 80% of what you need, okay? The mindset and psychology, and to back that up, so that's 80%. Now, a lot of people just I was like when I was starting to learn this stuff years ago, I was like, just show me the money. I need to pay some rent, I was sleeping on my friend's couch, I need money, just show me the money, then I'll worry about all the motivation and the psychology and that stuff, yeah, whatever. I've read some books, I don't need that stuff, I need money. And that was my mindset. So the challenge is that we need both. You do need mindset. Now, we all have a mindset. It's just that, is our mindset conducive to creating abundance and attracting into our life? Or is our mindset focused on thinking that we have to really work hard and struggle? Or is it stopping that flowing into our life? That is 80%. Now, I don't care if you look at a lot of the top coaches for whether it's AFL or NRL or any sport, is most of their work, the coaches, is on psychology. Because most players know the strategies, they need to play. Strategy is important, but it's a psychology. And that's why a good team can be, a very highly skilled team can be beaten by a team that has less skill at times, because the team might have less skill, but they're in a better mindset and better psychology, and they're more pumped or more focused, and as a result, they can outperform. So 20% is strategy. So you've got to have the strategy, which is important, or the mechanics is another word for that, which is, I guess, the formula, the formula that you're going to follow. So that is 20%. So you do need both. So this program is designed around giving you both those things. I could just teach you the strategy, and logically that would make sense. But if we neglect the psychology behind how we make decisions, then it's going to hold us back. Because as humans, jot this down, we're emotional human beings. We're not logical. The men in the room was like, we're logical. We have a logical part to us, but we are emotional. So we make our decisions based on emotion. So we have to master our emotions to master our life and to master our finances. So psychology comes into that a lot, and especially around wealth creation. Psychology is everything. So we have to often change our psychology, but how quickly can you change? You can change in a what? In a heartbeat, in an instant. And I'll take you through some processes where you just, because what you're going to do is relink what you link pain and pleasure to. Okay, and I'll give you some logical illustrations of that, so it keeps it really simple. Very quickly, who else wanted to share while you're here? A couple more people. We'll go down the back, yep. Far away. I'm just curious why you're here. Yep.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mel.
Mel?
And I'm a financial planner.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, and a good one.
Finally, we found one.
Hey. And everyone keeps telling me, why are you here then? As you said, it's not all strategies, it's 80% mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm a member for 4 years.
Wow, well done.
I've learned a lot from you. Thanks for that. And I'm here mainly to focus on developing my business. So, and update my knowledge.
Yep.
And boost my motivation as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Give me a huge hand. The great thing also, what you should be thinking about, and this is how you become a better student, is be a teacher. So what I'm going to have you do this weekend, I'm going to teach sessions, and I'm going to have you turn the person next to you and just teach them some of the things that I just shared with you. Because when we have to, because a lot of people, there's a process of learning when we first learn something until we get to the point we go, aha, now I've got it. Then we act on it. Is that true? But there's a bit of a gap sometimes we first, we can be sitting at school or taking notes. I mean, really at school, we weren't really learning. We were memorizing. How many times did you crash study before an exam where you memorized as much as you could to get through the exam? If you had to sit the same exam 12 months later without being able to re-memorize, then you would fail miserably because you haven't really learned it. And really because a lot of things you didn't really need to learn. Do you know what I'm saying? That's not learning, that's memorizing. What we're doing this weekend is that's why we'll do certain processes to lock it into your nervous system so it's a part of who you are. You know it at a nervous system level. It's inside you. So it's a knowingness. So when you start to learn, then it's go, aha, now I've got it. Then you'll act on it. When you're stuck in that stage of confusion, I kind of get it, don't quite, you're sort of confused. In confusion, you won't act. On the other side of confusion is a breakthrough, and that's when you'll act. Making sense? So notice when we go, especially when you get into some of the financial strategies, is that the good news is they're on the DVDs. Okay, apart from the new strategies which will be updated in the DVDs, is that you can watch it over and over again until you go, aha. For instance, share renting, when I was first learning that strategy, is that it took me 5 or 6 times to fully get it. Then once I got it, and then I created the terminology share renting. It was never called that back then, and that was help people learn it faster. So one of the things you're going to learn this weekend is how to use words and terminology that helps with accelerated learning. Because the way that we learn is we attach something that we know with something that we don't know. If I told you 2 things that you don't know, your mind goes into a trance. So I've said you could write call options at below the strike price, but you probably need some put options to protect yourself. Now, for those who don't know about options, you'd be in a trance, like, what's he talking about? But if you knew what that meant, you're not in a trance. Most people are in a trance, but then if I attach something that you know already, you can rent out property. Did you know you can also rent out shares? Now you go, oh yeah, you can rent out property. Did you know you can do that with shares as well? Now your brain goes, I know what renting out property is. I understand that. You attach that to something new, and now you go, aha, got it. Please follow what I'm saying here. Okay, that's the process that we learn. So on Sunday, if you like that strategy, we have one of our licensed speakers that will come along and share with you, how to do that particular strategy. So. The point is that what you can do is also take this knowledge and share it with other people. It'll make you a better student. Because when we have to teach, even teaching this weekend to the person next to you, you have to go, okay, now I have to understand this in a different way. Because you can just pretend to be listening, is that true? But when you know you have to now then teach it to someone else, you listen at a different level, true? If you're like, if I said, okay, I'm going to teach you in the next half an hour, everything I teach you, then you've got to come up here on stage and then teach it to everyone else, you'd be like, holy shit. I better actually listen, and I'm going to take a lot more notes, and I'm going to I really need some time to really understand this so I fully, to make sense? It's that higher level of wanting to know, because then you have to now articulate it. It's in that process of articulation is that the mind is now understanding for you to be able to help someone else understand. Does that make sense? Now, one of the reasons I've been able to do better in a lot of areas of my life as far as investing and business, etc., is because I've been teaching it for 15 years. When you teach it over and over again, it reinforces the lessons. And you go, aha, I better make sure I stick to that. Because Tim Ferriss, who's familiar with Tim Ferriss? Tim, friend of mine, New York Times bestseller, 4-Hour Workweek, 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef. Great guy, very smart. He's like a mad professor. But he shared something, which I thought was very important, is that the skill set that you will need and require to become successful is different to the skill set required to remain successful. Does it make sense? Two different skill sets. Some of you in this room are already successful, whether it's in investing in property or stock market or in internet, in business or your career. So the skill set you use to get there is different now to the skill set to maintain, especially with wealth as well. There's one thing in creating wealth, there's another big skill set in keeping it. And you've seen a lot of stories of people like, who's the richest person under 40 or was in Australia. He became a billionaire, and then he's blown most of it, and he's down to his last 50 million. I know you feel incredibly sorry for him. Nathan Tinkler. You familiar with Nathan Tinkler? Nathan grew up in a town about 45 minutes from where I grew up. He went to school in Inverell, and he failed miserably at school. He wasn't that good academically, and his dad said, son, if you don't leave a small country town when you finish school, you probably never will leave, which is probably good advice. In other words, saying if you don't leave when you finish school, you probably won't leave. So he left, and he went and eventually became an electrician, and he started an electrician business, contracting to the mines in Hunter Valley. And Nathan, at a young age, deduced something. He figured out the people that were making the big money were the people that owned the mines. Very clever guy. Right? Who else would ever figure that out? But you've got to understand is that also he figured out that there's a mining boom going on. Who knew that Australia has been going through a mining boom, or has, in the last 10, 15 years? We all know that. We just know that. But how many of us are actually gone, oh, we're in a mining boom, how do we participate in that? Now, some have, and we have a lot of students that have worked in the mines and for 3 or 4 years, and a lot of miners study the DVDs because they've made a lot of money, they're smart and they invest it, and many of them are retired now, where others that haven't worked in the mines, made all this money, their lives are destroyed, they've gone into drugs, alcohol, their relationships are broken up, and because they've lost purpose, they didn't have goals, they didn't know what they were aiming for, and their lives turn into disasters. Makes sense? It's a very big difference between having a purpose, a drive, a sense of written down goals where you're heading, versus if you don't have that, then you can get lost. Is it true? Who knows some people get lost? I mean, we're all human. We make mistakes at times, but it's the importance of a directed mind, it being focused. And this weekend will certainly help you get focused. So what Nathan did was that he figured out he didn't have the money. So here's a skill set as far as someone is able to create a lot of money. He doesn't have the skill set to keep it. You'll have to learn that. If he's going to have to learn how to recreate it as well. But he was certainly very good at creating it. So he went looking and searching for mining leases, and he discovered a mining lease in Queensland. But the problem is they wanted $30 million for this lease. And he didn't have any, he had a house at that time, and he had a small electrical business, but he didn't even have $1 million. So how is he going to pay $30 million? But see, in creating wealth, money can be made out of thin air, or you have to be creative to create wealth. It's one of the key skill sets. You have to be able to think and solve problems. These are the skill sets of creating wealth. So he was able to eventually keep, and you had to be persistent. So he's persistently, and who was this guy? And they're like, well, they're not going to deal with him. He's going to have no track record, no money, and there was other mining companies after the leases, so he wasn't even considered seriously. So he realised he'd need to get a legal firm on board to do the negotiation for him, but they were going to cost money and didn't have the money. So most people just give up and go, who do I think I am anyhow? I'm just from a country town and I don't really, never done this before. But he didn't give up. So he convinced a law firm in Sydney, look, I don't have any money to pay you right now, but I've got this deal I want you to help me negotiate, and if the deal comes off, I'll pay you double in fees at the end. So he was so convincing, he was able to convince this law firm to take him on. So now he had the law firm working for him on effectively for free up front, and they negotiated. Eventually all the other tenders that were trying to buy this mining lease fell over, and Nathan's offer was the last one left, and he negotiated to buy this $30 million lease for $1 million deposit. They said they will take $1 million deposit, non-refundable, and you have 6 months to pay the balance. I think, something to that effect, about 6 months to pay the balance, $29 million. So he took the deal. Now, let me ask you the question. If you had to, now what he had to do is sell his house, sold his business, and raise money off friends to get the $1 million. Was he just dipping his toe into this as a new career, or was he fully committed? Fully committed. He was putting everything on the line plus other stuff, but he was committed. This is what it takes. Now, you'd only do this if you want to become a billionaire by 40, okay? Because this is what he did. He became a billionaire by 40. So he ends up doing this because he believed that it was worth more. He believed it could add value to it. It was worth more. There was a mining boom coming. He could make a lot of money. Anyhow, he eventually raises the money for the rest of the money that he needs. Now, on top of the $29 million, he's got 6 months to come up with. Is that a bit of stress, yes or no? It's a bit of pressure. He also needs to come up with $2.5 million quickly to do drill testing on the lease to prove that it's worth anything. So then he goes knocking on the doors of broking houses and says, look, I need money. This is my idea. I need to raise money. And most of them say, no, who are you? What's your track record? They say no. But he's persistent. So he eventually convinces. So he's able to get himself in a state of certainty, which we'll talk about shortly. A state of certainty. He's able to convince people that the idea has merit. And he convinces this small broking firm to raise $2.5 million off their 60 clients. And as a result of that, they raise that money. But what he gives them thin air. He gives them equity, shares in his company in exchange for that money. Making sense? So this is how money's made, is out of thin air. Okay, what's paper? It's just something printed on paper. So we have to understand that it's a concept between humans, what something's worth, and we can all create it. So as a result of that, he was able to convince them to do that. They do the drill testing and discovers that there's a lot of coal there. And long story short, they end up getting a takeover bid. They raise the money to pay the $30 million, and after that they get a takeover bid, and they're bought by McIntyre Coal. And he gets paid $240 million for what he paid $1 million deposit for. But then he's smart, his other investors want to cash out, so he takes shares in McIntyre Coal for what he's got. They take the cash, and he borrows $20 million now, and borrows and buys more shares in McIntyre Coal. McIntyre Coal, I think, went from $8 to $20, and then he sells out at $20, and he gets $440 million in cash deposited into his bank account. Not paper, cash. Who likes the idea of that, by the way? $440 million cash, and he's only, at this point, in his late 20s or early 30s. And so people say he was lucky, he's a complete idiot, this was a lucky idiot. It doesn't matter how successful you become, there will always be the cynics. There'll always be the people knocking you. It doesn't matter how much money you make, there'll always be people that make more, there'll always be the next level. Does that make sense? So if you're worried that there might be people that are knocking you for wanting to have a go now, just get comfortable with it, because you'll always have that. You'll always have that no matter what level. Find me someone that isn't getting knocked. Like, interesting thing with what Oprah was saying is that as successful as Oprah is, and as many people she's helped, she has people online that slag her and defame her, and people on Twitter and online on the internet. And the internet's been a great level playing field, but it does enable people that often don't have the courage to say something in person to think they're very confident online. They'll say shit about people, and they'll say it about anyone. And she was saying, wouldn't it be cool to actually find out who makes these posts and rock up at their house and knock on the door and say, if you've got something to say about me, say it to my face. Do you know what I'm saying? Who thinks that would be cool? So I was leading up to it. The point is, it doesn't matter who you are, there's always going to be the knockers. So Nathan had his knockers. And he basically, so he was like, well, I'm going to do it again. So he did it again. He borrowed more money and bought a mining lease. And he made, long story short, he then listed that into Aston Resources and sold it off to Whitehaven for $1.2 billion. And out of these first $440 million, he went and spent $300 million on horses. He had a habit of making money, but he would just waste it. And so he didn't have the ability to manage his money, and he didn't invest it into cash flow producing assets. He wasted a lot of it. He bought some property, etc., but he didn't. If he went and put $100 million into horses, the other $200 million into quality businesses that would generate cash flow, then that cash flow he could have then did whatever he wanted for the rest of his life. Okay, so he basically blew a lot of it, and then he bought another lease, made another $600 million. Is worth $1.2 billion at one point, but then the coal industry dropped down, and then he had to sell that, and he lost most of that, and he's down to his last $50 million. Makes sense? So the point to that story is, though, it's an incredible story how wealth can be made, even in this country, by a country boy that had some guts, but he was able to have certainty to convince other people that this is a worthwhile idea to consider. He was persistent, and he was creative and can continually solve problems, and he's a deal maker. Now, there's a fair chance that he'll be able to put another deal together and make a lot of money because he has that capacity to create it. But he would need to develop a better skill set at keeping the money or remaining successful. Making sense? It's two different things. Some of you in this room need the skill set to maintain your wealth or maintain your success. It's different to initially creating it. Some of you already are asset rich and just need to develop the skill set to actually enjoy your life more. Okay? Not just, because sometimes we can become conditioned to saving money and putting it aside, especially baby boomers in the room, and we get so conditioned to not spending much. But at some point, the idea of having money aside is to enjoy life, true? So we have to be able to have that balance. Many Australians are asset rich and cash flow poor. Okay? So there's no point in doing that because people become poor rich people. They're actually rich, but they behave like they're poor. I remember buying a farm. One of my dreams many years ago was to help my family out, and I grew up on farms, so I bought a lot of neighbouring farms. And also I believe, Jim Rogers, who's a leading hedge fund manager in Singapore, quite a famous one, he said, in the future it will be farmers driving Lamborghinis, not stockbrokers, because he believes with the Asian food crisis coming, rural industries will long-term do well, and Australia could profit from that. So I also believed it was a good long-term investment. But I remember buying this farm, and this particular gentleman, I estimated, it was a neighbouring farmer, would have been worth $8 or $10 million. And he was about to retire. His family wanted him to sell the farm to go to a smaller farm and just, take it a little bit easier. But the point was that even though he was worth a decent amount of money, could comfortably retire, is that he was what we call a poor rich man. He was so, back in, the past days, is that, you think your grandparents' generation, is that men generally controlled the money, women didn't. Okay, and it was a much more controlling type time. So his wife, who's a beautiful lady that's very generous and helps out the community, she would actually fly to Sydney to do volunteer nursing and help people just out of generosity of her heart. He wouldn't even pay for airfares. It was only her son that used frequent flyers so she could fly to Sydney. She would sleep on a couch because he wouldn't pay for a hotel, etc. Now here's a guy that's worth $8 or $10 million, rich, but behaving like poor, because from the very early days of growing up, save every penny when they're poor and build up. But some people, they don't learn that you have to also enjoy money. You have to have that balance. Is that true? Otherwise, what's the point of it? Now, that is not a note. Jamie said, go and spend more money. I'm not spending enough. It's that we have to have that balance. Is that true? Because what is the point of it? Jot this down. The point of what I'm here this weekend to help you with is to create lifestyle. Does that make sense? Ultimately, it's about lifestyle. It's not just about helping you create wealth, because you can financially create assets but not have a lifestyle. Make sense? Or you don't have to actually make a lot of money and can have an extraordinary life. So my goal is to help you get to that sweet spot as quickly as possible to have that freedom and flexibility. Tomorrow morning, I'll cover a session for you on how you can create I effectively say, a millionaire's lifestyle in less than a year, without even needing to become a millionaire. For most of you, if you're not millionaires yet, is that you can actually never have to become a millionaire to live a great life. And I'll share that strategy with you because it's something you can all apply to whatever you do. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're in a career, whatever, and it doesn't involve money. It just involves strategy and a change in the way that you do things. And it's updating the way that you work into a 21st century model. Most of you are still working in a 19th century model. The whole 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, 48 weeks a year. I mean, how do you live a life if you do that? I mean, how do you live a life on 4 weeks holiday a year? I mean, Americans get 2 weeks a year. Australians get 4 weeks, but you can't live like that. How do you live a life if you only live 2 days on the weekend? And 5 days you're selling your time to an employer. There's too much you have to do in your life to be in a rigid, outdated, contracted model that worked in the 19th century that's now had its past, where now in today's world, we want much more flexibility. Is that true? We want much more flexible careers, much more flexible time. Doesn't mean we don't want to work. We're going to work and possibly work more, but we want to work on our own time and our own way that we can do the things that we want. True? So I'm going to share that with you tomorrow, how you can do that without needing any money to invest. It's just a strategy and change in the way that you set up your working life. Okay? So let's go through a couple of things that Daniel, I'll share with them what they're going to learn this weekend. Yeah, we'll roll through those quickly. I've covered some of these things. Just to make sure you know what you have to look forward to. Financial blueprint to become a self-made millionaire. I'm going to go through the blueprint that I learned off my millionaire mentor, what I've followed for the last almost 20 years. I'll cover that. When do I cover that? After lunch tomorrow, that's when I'll cover that. I'm going to share with you a formula of how to increase your net worth, how I believe pretty much everyone could. Obviously, there's no guarantees, but a strategy and formula that we've been using for some time to increase your net worth by $1 million in the next 10 years. Okay, tomorrow after lunch, I'll run through that with you. I'm going to keep it the most basic formula we have. If you were sitting in this program 15 years ago, I would have taught you the exact same formula. It's the formula that I was taught by my earliest mentor, that I did, that I just followed, and you'll see how it works. And many Australians have done it. Some of you in the room are already using this formula, but how it can create for the average person $1 million net worth within 10 years, okay? It's a property formula, and we'll go through that tomorrow. Who likes the idea of that, by the way? Okay. Now, some of you are going, I don't want to have to wait 10 years to make $1 million. Who's feeling like that? I'm not saying you have to wait 10 years, but I'm saying that's one formula. Now, if you want to accelerate that, I will also teach you, and then we'll have another speaker share with you as well how to do that. If you are above average, how to increase that formula to generate $10 million net worth within 20 years. It's a property formula. It's a formula that we've been teaching for 15 years now, and we can also go back historically and look 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if you had done and followed this formula, what would have happened. And then we're going to look at tomorrow, I'll give you an economic update. We're going to look at, I'll share with you my opinion and views on the Australian property market, the US property market, the economy for the next 12 months, what's likely to happen, where things are heading. And that will give you, I guess, an idea, because investing is really about certainty and understanding what's likely to happen, preempting the future. No one knows for sure, but if you have an understanding, I'll teach you the fundamentals, how you can come up with your own conclusions, and then you'll have more confidence and certainty, and it's that certainty that you need to get yourself to act. Is that true? Because if you have fear and doubt, you're going to go, mightn't work, and you'll have all these things that will stop you. If you have a sense of certainty because you understand and more aware of certain things that others aren't, then you can go and take action and achieve things. Now, of course, there's no guarantee. We don't know what the world will look like in 10, 20 years. But history can give us some clues. Is it true? History definitely in financial investing can give us a lot of clues. So we're going to look at that so you can have a bit of certainty and go, wow, now when I give you examples and you see people that have done this, and there's many people that are millionaires, and I can tell you now, the people that have made the most money from the strategies over the last 15 years are the people that followed these two formulas, okay? There's other strategies you can use, but you should not neglect these formulas. These are the way that most people create wealth in Australia. They're very fundamental, they're very basic, they're very common sense. Anyone can pretty much do them with some help. It's not necessarily easy, it just takes time. Wealth creation is about time. If you do the right thing, then time is on your side. If you don't do the right thing, then time is against you. Okay, so we want time on our side. And by the way, 10, 20 years can go by pretty quickly. Is that true? So the point is, in 10, 20 years, where you're going to be financially will be determined by the decisions you make this weekend and the next year or two in particular. That will set up your future. That's what's critical. That's what we're talking about. So you're going to learn some brand new cutting-edge financial strategies, such as Bitcoin. I'm going to talk to you about Bitcoin, first time ever at an event that I'll talk about this. I was on Sky News a couple of days ago talking about this as well. If you have never, up until 3 weeks ago, most people never heard of Bitcoin, but now it's all over the financial news and you'll hear a lot more about it. I did start writing a book on it a year ago. Some of you would have read or part of my book that I released a few months ago on this. When I first started talking about, people were like, well, what is he, on drugs or something? What's this Bitcoin? But what my goal has always been is to have my followers and my investor clients know about things before the whole world knows about them, because you want to be ahead of the trend. I'll tell you my views on that tomorrow. It's quite exciting. I've never seen something that can reshift and redistribute wealth so rapidly in the history of mankind. I think it's a revolution that's coming. Many people just don't grasp what's happening, and therefore they'll miss out on the opportunity because they don't see what's happening. Or most people are bystanders. They'll hear things, but they'll never do anything about it. Because often we have to hear things 5 or 6 times before we go, oh, maybe I should do something about that. True? How many times have we heard about things and we just heard about them, but just never acted on them? And then we hear stories of a Norwegian guy that invested $27 into Bitcoin in the early days. It's now sitting on $4.5 million. Or a story come out yesterday, a guy that mined Bitcoin a few years ago and put it on his hard drive, but accidentally threw the hard drive out with his rubbish. So now he's at the rubbish tip years later trying to find this hard drive, because the hard drive has $6.9 million of Bitcoin on it. So I'm sure he won't be the only one that's in that tip looking for that hard drive. Okay? We're going to share with you a strategy. I'm not personally, but I'm really excited about it. But we're going to have on Sunday, you're going to learn this strategy, how others have made 6-figure incomes from blogging. It's a strategy that I think is absolutely critical. I think everyone can participate in it. You don't really need invest capital to do it. So these things, you don't need money, you just need maybe time. But who's a blogger? Who's already blogging? A couple of people. Okay, let me ask you this question. Who here has a Facebook account? Put your hand up. So if you have a Facebook account, guess what? You are a blogger. The point is, how much is Facebook paying you right now for your blogging? 0? Is Facebook writing you any checks for blogging, on making posts on Facebook, yes or no? Well, Facebook's earning about $8 billion, thanks to you. Because Facebook doesn't hire journalists like Fairfax and News Corp do. They're a media company, by the way. They don't hire journalists. They get you for free to write the articles and posts, etc. And they get you for free to get your friends to go to your Facebook page and drive traffic and check out what you post there. And how do they make money from that? They have ads on there, is that true? So you already participate, you already are a blogger, maybe not a professional one, is that you just don't have a blogging agreement in place where you'll get paid money. Making sense? So you'll learn about that Sunday. It's a very simple concept. People say, I don't have time to blog, jot this down. Bullshit, you already are. And if you're in any career you're in, any business you're in, you need to be blogging. It's the future. I'm giving you a clue ahead of the trend. Does it make sense? That's what you're getting access to, big clues. If I get excited about something, it has to be good, otherwise I wouldn't get excited about it. Blogging is good. Jot this down. Jamie said blogging is good. Hint, hint, hint. I'm going to become a professional blogger. Make sense? I don't have time, cross that out. You do. You already are blogging for free for Facebook. It's time you got paid. Access strategies to potentially make $100,000 every 6 months whilst keeping your job. This strategy you're going to learn also on Sunday by a friend of mine, and he's going to share. And this is, when you go through it, it's a subdivision strategy. A friend of mine, it's a very simple strategy. But I like it, and it's giant. Tomorrow I'll also go through the top 10 investment strategies for you. I did a webinar on it last night, but as far as for the year ahead, what I think is the top 10, this is now on the top 10. It's a subdivision strategy. It's a very basic, very common sense, but it's a strategy not for everyone, but for many of you. Some people probably already done it. Some of you might already be doing it. But you don't even need to be that knowledgeable. You just need to learn how to do it by someone, a model, someone can show you how to do it. But I was talking to a friend rang me up. He's about 76 years of age. He's a political expert, and I've known him for years through politics. And he's not that financially savvy, and he's ringing me for financial advice, okay? For some tips or what you want to do. And he said, Jamie, I've got this place in country Victoria, which he bought a house, and it was on a big block. And he said, I'm thinking about moving to another state, should I sell? What I've done is that a few years ago, I subdivided the back block, it's a big block, subdivided the block, and I put a townhouse on the back. And it's worth $250,000, the townhouse. It's in a country town. And so I've got some profit there plus my house. So he's not even financially savvy, and that's what he did. He just subdivided his block and put a townhouse, and he's made a couple of $100,000 out of that. He can keep renting it out and make cash positive, or he can sell that townhouse off, keep his house. And you know what I'm saying? It's a very simple strategy. You probably know people have done it. I call it a suburban strategy. I also call it an immigrant strategy. Do you realise one reason immigrants are 4 times more likely to become self-made millionaires is immigrants buy property more than Australians that are born here. That's how they made their wealth. You talk to a lot of immigrants, especially in the suburbs of Melbourne. What have they done? They've bought a block of land, they've subdivided, put a townhouse on the back, sold that off, and then moved and done it, replicated again. Who knows, some people have made money that way. So we may know this, but have we actually done it ourselves? We haven't sometimes got, wow, there's money being made all around us. Are we doing it? So the key is always action. And often why we aren't doing it because, well, we're busy with our career, or we don't know how, or we just don't realise how profitable it can be, and we just haven't thought about it. So it's not for everyone, but it's a strategy you'll learn on Sunday. Internet domain trading, another way people are making money. It's the new real estate of the 21st century is domain names. You're going to learn about that also on Sunday. I'm inviting a friend in. Now, some of these people, to get them to share their knowledge is not always easy to do. They're not necessarily professional speakers. They just do things. Some are professional speakers, some aren't. And they just have certain recipes for making money. In some industries, it's not common that they would share their knowledge. Why? Because they're worried other people go out and do it, and it creates competition for them. True? Now, I come from abundance thinking, I don't care, I'll share all my knowledge, you can have it. I mean, I think there's plenty of money in the world, and good luck to you if you become successful. It doesn't inhibit my success. Does that make sense? But other people around certain industries, they like to hold on the information. So some people have had to ask favours for them to, and we'll interview some of them to get their knowledge out of them, okay, that you can take advantage of and potentially profit from. Does it make sense? Otherwise, normally, you wouldn't get access to this sort of knowledge because in a lot of industries, they won't share it with you because they just don't want to. They want to keep it to themselves. Australia's How to Be Time Rich, I mentioned that. Renting shares and selling insurance, you'll learn that also on Sunday. Forex, one of the gentlemen will come in and he's got a book, How to Work 7 Minutes a Day. It's quite a popular book, and he'll teach you that particular strategy. Sunday, when I speak later in the day, I want to talk you how to minimise losses, avoid costly mistakes. An update, as I mentioned, I'll do that tomorrow for you for 2014. And a few other things there that we've already covered. So we've got a lot to get through. So here's what I want you to do. Quickly turn the person next to you and teach them at least 2 things that you've learnt so far today. And the other person will teach back 2 things they've learnt. And I'll walk around the room to see who hasn't been listening. Go for it quickly. So what we need is common sense, strategic, intelligent solutions, and formulas to follow. The shortcut to success is we model people that have already produced the result, or business or ideas out there that are already successful that can save us a long time. So we're really just using common sense. We'll look to be above the line or below the line. Blame, excuses, denial is what holds people back. We have to be accountable, responsible. We have to take action. And 80% of it is mindset and psychology, but we also need to have effective strategies. And it's really up to you as an individual what strategy is going to work best to you, because everyone's in a different position. Some people will be really good at some strategies, and other people they'll just won't be successful at them. But we've got to understand failure is just a feedback mechanism. We need to get out there and test things. So the way we avoid large failures is that we test. Jot this down. We test and measure. We test and measure on a small scale. So anything to be common sense this weekend, if you're going to try a new financial strategy, it would make sense to practice on paper first. Then it would also make sense to practice then when you're more confident on a small amount of money. Does it make sense? And that way you can make your mistakes on a small amount of money, and then as you develop your confidence, you can expand at whatever pace you're comfortable. Making sense? The greatest danger to becoming wealthy is the desire to get rich what? Quick. Get rich quick is a disease in Australia. What happens is many people that Australia has a gambling addiction. Many people, they don't believe it's possible to become wealthy, but if they're going to invest in something, they just want to get rich quick. They want to put the effort in. So the reality is that, yes, you can become wealthy faster than the average person, but not by trying to get rich quick. By being systematic and being patient, you'll often find, by being patient, things often show up in your life faster. By being impatient is one of those things, subconscious, that is pushing things away because we're too impatient. We have to be patient, relax, and things tend to flow to us quicker when we're patient. You know, it sounds like a contradiction, but jot this down. It's usually the law of opposites. The easiest way to understand this, my first millionaire mentor said to me, Jamie, here's what you need to do. Find out what most people are doing, and then do the exact what? Opposite. Because the majority of people are not getting the results they want. You know, you want to do the exact opposite. The percentage of people are usually going in a different direction, are thinking differently outside the box. Okay? So those things are very critical. So we're going to test and measure on a small scale first. We just want to be sensible about things. So we're trying to get rich quick is part of that sense of entitlement or things that can really cause us. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of my cousins, a great young guy, but he's been to my events years ago, and instead of following through and doing some of the longer term strategy, he wanted to get rich quick. So he's tried every little thing trying to get rich quickly, and he's not rich yet. Now, that's probably 10 years now. If he had just followed the most basic formulas I'll share with you tomorrow, even just the most basic, it might take 10 years to become a millionaire, might take 20 years to create $10 million net worth, but they're very basic principles. If you just followed that, at least that would be happening for him. Then got more confidence, you could actually accelerate it more from there. Does that make sense? So you want to start off with the most basic. I see a lot of people go where it's very obvious in Australia, property investing is a very successful mechanism if done properly to create wealth long term. A lot of people don't do it because they want to make money next month. Okay? So they'll often go for trading strategies in the stock market. Okay? Now, anything that we've taught around trading is generally to supplement a long-term property portfolio. So you have your long-term, slow, solid wealth strategy, and then you can overlay that with some faster cash flow type strategies. That works. But a lot of people go, just neglect the longer term stuff because I'm too impatient. I'm just going to go for the short term instant cash flow stuff. And that's a mistake. And I'll go through that, on Sunday as well, the typical mistakes people make. It's as an add-on. So a lot of people skip, and sometimes they want to criticize online. I think, well, hang on a minute. If people really listen to what I say and what I talk about in the strategies, then they couldn't mess up a lot of the things they've messed up. It's because they failed to not listen or don't want to listen to the fundamentals because I don't know anyone. You could totally stuff up in real estate in a country. A lot of you bought 10 years ago overpriced Gold Coast property. Even if you bought 10 years ago, you would still probably be better off because even if you make a mistake, properties over time have risen. Okay, so even if you stuff it up, over time, you can still do quite well out of it. Now, obviously, if you're smart and don't stuff it up, the chances of succeeding are pretty high. Is it making sense? You go back, let me ask the question. Who wishes they'd bought more houses or properties in Australia 15 years ago? If you could wind the clock back knowing what you know today, who would find a way to buy more 15 years ago? Okay? Even you go, well, I didn't have the money 15. Well, who'd find the money somehow? Because what you'd have is total confidence and certainty. You've seen property prices rise over the last 15 years, and you go, my God, I've just got to find a way to do it. Okay, we'll talk about that tomorrow because you go, well, I wish, some people go, that's hindsight, It's easy in hindsight, okay? To become wealthy, we need hindsight or foresight. We need foresight, does that make sense? That's what we're going to look at in some of the strategies tomorrow. You have to develop, and to do that, you have to develop certainty within. Because what happens to most people, that if they rely on external circumstances to get certainty, or external things or people to give them change the way they feel, okay, then they're at the mercy of the crowd, ruled by, jot this down, ruled by the committee called they. So many people are ruled by the committee called they. They won't do anything unless they all agree, or their friends think it's a good idea, or their family thinks it's a good idea. Trust me, if everyone thinks it's a good idea, it's time to get out of whatever investment they think is good. Does that make sense? The time everyone thinks is great is the time to get out. Point. You have to develop the ability to not care what other people think. You get thick skin, jot it down, thick skin. If you are a crybaby, too sensitive, then you're going to get messed up in life. And if you can't afford to lose money, then don't invest. If you can't deal with losing money, you can't afford to lose some money, don't invest. Okay? So it takes courage. But you're going to have to, the reality is when I say don't invest, you don't have a choice because there's no pension in the future. You figured that out yet? So you're going to have to be an investor, whether you like it or not. So whether you're going to be a successful investor or a poor one is up to you. So the point is, if we rely on external validation from other people or events to determine how we feel and how we make our decisions, then we are going to lose. Does that make sense? Because we won't do anything unless everyone else, agrees it's a good idea. So we won't be able to make a decision. Successful people are able to make decisions rapidly and rarely change their mind. Jot that down. Successful people are able to make decisions rapidly, rarely change their mind. The least successful people take forever to make a decision, to make up their mind. And if they do, then they're like, not really sure, and they change their mind. True? You'll find that you have to have the ability to make decisions rapidly. It doesn't mean you don't think things through, but when you make a decision, you stick at it. Because then you're going to see what's working, what's not, then you can change and make a new decision. But most other people can't make a decision and they're like, should I? Maybe not, yeah. Then in hindsight, they go, yeah, I wish I had have bought some more property 15 years ago. I wish I had have bought Bitcoin when Jamie first started talking about it. You'd be much richer now today, is that true? So the point is that we have to develop certainty within ourselves and make our own decisions and not be too worried what other people think. What leadership is willing to say something, have an opinion, have a viewpoint, take a stand for something, even if it's not popular. Even if most people think you're crazy or even most people are not going to do it. Does that make sense? That requires courage. Because if everyone did it, then there's not the same opportunity. So do you deserve to have a competitive advantage? If you go to university and you invest 3-6 years into university and you get a degree, do you deserve to have a competitive advantage to getting a job to those who haven't done that? Yes or no? You go, you absolutely understand it. If you invest in this type of education, a modern day education, which you now can get certified in as well, if you do that, do you deserve a competitive advantage to those who don't? Yes or no? I say yes, you do. And that's what you're giving yourself as a competitive advantage because you'll know about things ahead of time of others. You develop psychology where you can make leadership decisions and decide for yourself because you can develop certainty within. And it's going to increase your likelihood of success. It doesn't guarantee it, but it increases that. And that's what you're doing for yourself. So you can't be too worried what other people think. One thing when I first met Richard Branson, what was really good about Richard is that he has such a sense of freedom about his life. And you might say, well, if I was a billionaire, I'd feel a lot free too. But it becomes because he doesn't give a brass razoo about what people think of him. He doesn't care. He's not ruled by the committee called they. He lives his life on his terms. Does that make sense? Now, that's probably why he's also a billionaire. Because he's never let other people influence him in that way. He chooses how he lives. And that's freedom. If we're worried what other people think, then we're not going to really take a risk and do things. Making sense? It doesn't mean that we always want... You said what we think about ourselves is more important than what other people think. True? You control the frame of reference. That's what leadership is. And you're becoming an investor, you're becoming a leader in society. Because you're going to have to add value to society through business. There's only 2 ways to make money. Quickly jot it down before we move on to other stuff. There's only 2 ways to make money. One is to have money at work for you, i.e. being an investor. And that's what you're going to learn this weekend as well. The other way is to have people at work through business or the leverage of people, have people working for you. That's the only 2 ways to make money. And you're going to have to add value some way in society. Most people go, I'd want to make $1 million. And I'm like, well, what are you prepared to give to society in return for that $1 million? I don't know. I never thought about that. Well, why do you deserve $1 million if you haven't thought about how you're going to give value to society? If you want $1 million, you should be thinking, how can I add $10 million worth of value to society? In return, I get $1 million. Does it make sense? If you want $10 million, how can I add $100 million in value? You have to first give in order to get. That's a universal principle. We know that to be true, don't we? You know, people go to wealth creation. How do I do that? It's universal principles. You must first give in order to get. And I'm going to suggest to you, if you want to become spiritually and truly wealthy, you should come from a space where you give regardless of whether you get, because that's just who you are. You are a generous person. You're focused on contribution. You focus on making a difference in the world. You're not focused on horse trading. I'll give you this if you give me that. Does it make sense? That's not really giving. Giving is just saying, this is who I'm going to be. And that's a decision I made almost 20 years ago. You know, I'm sick of living in fear. I'm sick of being broke. I don't control these things, but what I do control is who I am and who I show up every day. And I'm not going to live in fear anymore. I'm going to go out and make a difference. I'm going to pay attention to other people. I'm going to help other people. I'm just going to focus on them instead of focusing on me. If you want to be depressed, in case you don't know how to be depressed yet, I can tell you now, you don't need to go and see a psychologist to figure this stuff out or do a degree in psychology to figure out what's going on in the world. To be depressed, I can tell you what you have to focus on. Other people or yourself? Yourself. Is it true? People that are depressed are focused generally on themselves and not other people. How do you be happy? Focus on yourself or focus on helping other people? Focus on helping other people. If you focus and care about other people and want to contribute to other people, if I'm not as happy as I want to be, I just go, how can I help more people? How can I help more my family, my friends? How can I make a difference to my team? How can I think, so I'm focused, my energies and focus on other people. I'm there present for other people. Does it make sense? How simplistic is this? Is it simplistic? Is it common sense? And you know it to be true. You know in your heart that this makes sense, this is true. But we forget these basic lessons. If we remember these lessons and go out there and go, isn't life exciting? We say, how much more value can I add? How much more can I give? Anyone could start a career anytime, and you'd have a lineup of clients just by being a listener. Say, I'm going to go into business of listening. Anyone that wants someone to listen to them, come to me and I'll listen to you. Think about that in society. How many people don't listen to people? What's a counselor? Someone that just listens to people. You think about that. But by being present and actually paying attention to other people. You look at people that have charisma or people that you're attracted to in the sense of they have characteristics that you admire. Having charisma is generally nothing more than focusing your energy on someone else as opposed to internal. Is it making sense? And that's for people that have charisma. They focus, their energy is outward and they focus their energy on someone else. Their presence is there. Where other people are too consumed internally with their own life and their own problems and too much in their head that they're not even present enough to have a conversation with the taxi driver. True? They're so caught up in everything that's going on that they forget to live. They could be going through a day of their life and they start wishing their time away. So I can't wait till 5 o'clock. Is there people in this country right now that can't wait till it's 5 o'clock on a Friday?
Definitely.
Is that not a sad way to live?
Yes.
Is it not a disrespectful way to live? Do you think life is so valuable? It's one of the greatest gifts. For just to be alive, you realize the race that you won, how many millions lost that race, but you made it. To be even born, and you get the gift of life. And we know that life is not going to go on forever, at least on a physical level. Yet then we live in one of the richest countries on the planet and we start wishing time away. The most valuable, precious thing that we have. I mean, you can make money back. You can't get your time back. Does it make sense? Once it's expired, it's gone. And if we disrespect our life that much to wish our life away, then how do we expect the universe to fill our life with abundance and joy when we're basically being offensive to it? Who's following what I'm saying here? Okay. So the key to life is how do we take even the mundane things about our life? How do you look at life and just, like yesterday or the day before, I was in Sydney. I used to live in Sydney. I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And now I live on the Gold Coast in Melbourne. I live literally 50 metres from here when I'm in Melbourne. My apartment's literally 75 metres from here. So it's very convenient. And so I was in Sydney for the briefest time I've ever been in Sydney, because I had to duck to a Sky News interview in the city, Martin Place, and then back to the airport. So I literally went from the airport, the interview took about 7 minutes, and I could go straight back to the airport. But I thought, it's such a beautiful sunny day, so I stood in Martin Place, and it's busy lunchtime, people coming around, I bought myself a bottle of water. I just stood there and took 5 minutes just to soak in Sydney. And, you know, I'm standing there, I'm thinking, no one even notices. I'm the only person just standing still, watching everyone. Looking around, looking at all the buildings, looking at the history in this place, the beautiful sun, and watching people rush here, there, everywhere. And it's like time just stood still. And I'm just soaking it all in, because I realize that, you know, these are the magic moments of your life. You don't want to be always rushing. I just can't come to Sydney and go straight back to the airport without taking it in. Here's what I'm saying. So at any time in any day, can we just stop and just watch what's around us and just think, how crazy is this, how amazing life is, and how grateful I am just to be alive, before we go back into that rushing and everything that people are doing. Does it make sense? So we can do that anytime, and it's capturing those moments that makes us richer. The ability to be present, the ability to live in the moment. Yes, sure, we have to plan for our future, but we also have to live today. Making sense? And we know this to be true, but it's how do we go about creating that environment that we do this more consistently and we capture more? Because there is a power to distort time, you realize that. There's times in your life that things have gone really fast. True? Oh my God, the time just flew. Other times it's gone really slow. Time changes by our ability to be present or not present. Making sense? We have that ability to distort time. Unfortunately, most people are wishing it away, looking forward to a future time when they can feel a certain way, when they could feel that way right now, right here. So after lunch, what we're going to learn is how do you change that emotion, because ultimately, you're not here to get $1 million of pieces of paper with, you know, photos of or pictures of deceased notables on them. Does it make sense? You don't really want paper or plastic in Australian dollars. That's not really what you want, is it? What you really want is that money will give you a certain feeling. True? A feeling of freedom, or freedom, a feeling of excitement, or a freedom of avoiding pain. True? For most of you, it's to avoid pain. Or ultimately, the main feeling you're after is certainty. We live in such an uncertain world that you have $1 million or $10 million, whatever it is that you want, you'd feel a sense of certainty. So what you're really after is the emotion, not the external pieces of paper. You know, say, Jamie, I'll definitely take the external pieces of paper, don't worry about that. But the point is, you're actually after that emotion. Now, here's my question for you. What comes first generally, the money or the emotion? I suggest the emotion. Like for Nathan Tinkler to create $1 billion, he didn't get the $1 billion and then feel really confident and certain. He had to get himself to be confident and certain before and have foresight of what was possible, and that certainty was able to then influence other people to be certain about nothing more than a crazy idea. But out of that certainty, that emotion led to creating wealth. Does it make sense? It starts with the way we change our emotions. To be financially intelligent, we must first become emotionally intelligent. Let me ask you this question. Is the ability to influence other people in the 21st century, is that a valuable skill, yes or no?
Yes.
Probably the most valuable skill. All leaders or people that have achieved things. Steve Jobs, was he able to influence other people, yes or no?
Definitely.
Now, even times he wasn't that nice of a person, but he still influenced them. Is that true? Because he obviously had a certain degree of respect with some of his team, that even if he was mean or very demanding on them, it would still motivate them to perform at a higher level. So leadership doesn't always have to be being nice to people. It's about how do you get a result. Making sense? But the ability to influence someone else is a huge skill set. So let me ask you a question. What influences people the most? Is it what you say to someone? Or is it more of what you do? Who would say it's more of what you do? Most would say, actions speak louder than words. Or is there something even more powerful than that? Is it what you say or what you do? Or is it, jot this down, is it the emotional state that you're in when you say or do something? Think about that. Is it the emotional state that you're in when you say or do something? And let me give you an example of this. Actually, everyone stand up. Rather than me giving an example, let's have an example ourselves. Because what I'm trying to illustrate here is this weekend, it's not just about theory. We can take notes, I can share things off stage, and you get, that's a great idea, etc. We actually have to internalize it and really understand it. And remember, some simple distinctions that can make a very big difference to where we're at and where we're going to be. So the ability to influence other people, because it doesn't matter what aspect of your life, whether you just want to influence your kids to clean up their bedroom, okay, you want to influence someone to marry you, okay, or influence someone to leave you. You want to influence a business deal, you want to influence your potential employer to get a promotion or a new job, whatever, you're going to have to influence other people, okay? And I'll give you a big clue. To influence other people, who do we first must have the ability to influence? Ourselves, okay? And that's why most people are unable to influence other people, because they're unable to control their own emotions and influence themselves. All great leaders are people that have the ability to influence themselves to act. Motivation is motive to act. And as out of that, they didn't necessarily often have to do anything else other than being an example or being an inspiration. People go, wow, if that person can lose so much weight and be so healthy, that inspires me to go, wow, I could do the same. If that person get out of debt and achieve things that they've achieved financially, it's like, wow, maybe I could do that. Or that person's such a happy person, is always smiling, etc. How do they do that? So we can inspire by who we are. So let's test this though. Is it what we say to someone else that will influence them the most? Or is it what we do? Or is it what emotional state we're in when we say or do something? Let's test it. I want you to imagine, anyone from Sydney here? A few people from Sydney? Okay, why I ask that is because I want you to imagine, have you ever woken up one morning where you really couldn't be bothered meeting other people? Yeah, people in Sydney are a bit more like this than Melbourne. No, I'm just joking. Is that, you ever woke up one morning, you're like, oh my God, I just really couldn't be bothered getting out of bed, or last thing I want to do is talk to people. Who's ever had the morning like that? You're in like a couldn't be bothered state. It's like, maybe you had that this morning. It's like, God damn, I've got to go to this stupid seminar. I've heard things about it, better be good. Otherwise I'm out of here by lunchtime. Going back to work, because that's far more fun. So you're in a state you couldn't be bothered. So here's what I want you to do. I want you, in just a moment, I want you to meet a few people around you. But the way you got to meet them is that you really couldn't be bothered. You're like, I see Fernando and it's like, I'm in a bad mood. I'm sort of like, couldn't be bothered. It's like, I'm meant to be nice to him. It's like, why even bother? Stop being couldn't be bothered. So in a state of couldn't be bothered, let me ask you some questions. Were your shoulders upright or more slouched? Slouched. Breath, were you taking big breaths or more shallow? More shallow, constricted. Facial expressions, did you have a big smile on your face or more of a frown? Eye contact, lots or little? Tension in your body, relaxed or more tense? Most of you, like, let me ask you this question. Did I tell you how to hold your body, or did I just tell you act as if you couldn't be bothered? So I didn't tell you to slouch your shoulders, I didn't tell you lots of little eye contact, etc. But 99% of you all went into similar, what we call physiology. Shoulders down, little eye contact, low energy in your body, constricted breath, little eye contact, and maybe a frown on your face. Now, it's obvious if we said your ability to influence other people in this state, high or low? It's obviously low. But is there people in the world that often wake up, couldn't be bothered, and they can't get themselves into a better state? They go off to work, couldn't be bothered, or they go into their relationships, they really couldn't be bothered, or they deal with their kids, they really couldn't be bothered, and they live their life this way, yes or no? Yes. And is it surprising they don't produce the results they want, yes or no? Because they're just not going to. Now, it doesn't matter, they could say, I'm really motivated today, I'm really excited to be here. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if we couldn't be bothered, it's not going to go places, is it? So we know in this state, but as humans, we often are in a different state, that we're not in a state that we're feeling like we want to feel, okay? So it's going to hold us back. Let's try a different state from think back in your life, have you ever had a time in your life, maybe recently or a long time in the past, when you felt a sense of rejection? When you felt rejected. Now, ask the guys in the room, they've dealt with this all their life, okay? Payback time for you women. But a sense of rejection, okay? You felt rejected. Maybe it was when you were at school, or maybe you're whenever it was, or going for a job, or asking someone on a date, but you felt a sense of rejection, okay? So in a moment, I want you to meet some people around you as if you're afraid of being rejected, that they're going to reject you, okay? In a state of rejection, shoulders, are they upright or slouched? Slouched. Facial expression, big smile on your face or more of a frown? Eye contact, lots or little? Breath, big breath or constricted? Energy in your body, lots or little? Repeat after me. Something to think about. The key to success is to feel like you're going to be rejected every day in life. So we know in this state, our ability to influence ourselves is not very good, is it? We just really couldn't, we're just not confident. We're not going out in there in the world and taking the world on. We're almost like, if you notice, if people are afraid of being rejected, it's almost like they're attracting that rejection. It's like they're attracting that someone's going to say no to them because they're in that state. It increases the chance and likelihood of that happening. And we know they're not going to be effective in what they want to do. So the key is it what we say? Because it doesn't matter what you say. Like you could be given, let's say you're in a sales job and you're given the perfect script modeled off the Wolf of Wall Street or whoever, like one of the top salesperson on the planet, where if they say this, people buy. But if you're in a state that couldn't be bothered or afraid of being rejected, it's just not going to work, is it? It doesn't matter what you say because it's going to come through. You know, words are only 7% of communication. Words are only 7%. No, tonality is like 38%. And physiology, the way you hold yourself, the emotional state you're in, is like 55%. So it's more, and that's why if you've ever been to another country, you don't understand the language, but you can understand, figure out what people are saying in the sense of what they mean. Like if someone loves you, you can generally tell they love you. Someone says, love you. Do you really feel love? Do you know what I'm saying? Or they say, I really love you. It's the tonality, physiology, words is 7%. That's why international language, even without just knowing for someone's physiology, you can tell when someone's pissed off and angry versus someone's in love, to someone's happy, to someone's mediocre. You can tell. True? So what we're going to do is say, okay, our ability to influence people then is what we say, is what we do, or what emotional state we're in. And obviously the clue is what emotional state we're in. So this determines, so the key to success in life is coming down to what emotional state you're in on a consistent basis, on a day-to-day basis. So look at this weekend, not just like a financial gym, but you're coming to an emotional gym. Instead of where you might go to the gym and work out your physical muscles, this weekend you're in a gym where you're going to work out your emotional muscles. You know what I'm saying? You're going to develop your emotional muscles, because at school, were we taught to be emotionally intelligent, yes or no? They didn't really teach us that. They didn't teach us how to be emotionally strong. Yet these are very valuable skills because it's a tough world out there. Is it true? Yes. I mean, you'd rather be toughened up to go out in the world and the world's easier on you than to be put in cotton wool and then sent out there into that world and be eaten alive. True? So we have to develop the ability to control how we feel. And after lunch, we're going to teach you that. I'm going to break that down so you'll know at a theoretical level, and then you're going to apply it to your life. So let's try. I want you to imagine you're walking down the street and you bump into one of your long-lost friends you haven't seen for ages. You're not expecting them. It's like a total surprise, and you're like so happy to see them. Okay, so I'm walking along, minding my own business, and then I see, it's Heidi. Heidi, how are you? It's good to see you. And I pick her up and throw her around. It's great to see you. About time you got to my seminar. So the point is, like, you're so excited, you're surprised. It's like one of my best friends I haven't seen for a while. Heidi's my cousin as well, by the way. Give Heidi a She flew all the way from Alice Springs yesterday to be here. So stop where you are. Okay, meeting your best friends. Shoulders, were they slouched or upright? Energy in your body, little or lots? Lots for most of you. Facial expressions, frown or smile? Smile. Eye contact, little or lots? Energy in your body, little or lots? Okay, I didn't tell you how to hold your physiology or tonality or anything, but you all, 99% of you went to the same physiology because you're meeting your best friend. You don't want to be like, oh, really excited to meet you. You know what I'm saying? You're probably not going to have a best friend for long. So in this state, though, if I said your ability to influence other people in this state, is it low or high? Much higher compared to, say, being rejected or couldn't be, just a whole different world of experience. So you saying, Jamie, the key to success in the 21st century is basically treat everyone like my long-lost best friend. Yes or no? Yes. Absolutely. No, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying by the different state you're in, your ability to influence other people is greater. Why? Because your ability to influence yourself, if you're happy, energetic, excited, your ability to get yourself to act and do something already is much higher. So automatically you can influence other people because people are motivated, inspired by that. They want to be around someone that's like that. Making sense? Okay? So to influence other people, it's not so much about the script. It's not so much about what we say. It's about what state we're in because that tells more than we don't even say anything. Actually, some people are more influential without saying a goddamn word. Girls, true, David Beckham. Does he influence you until he opens his mouth? Do you know what I'm saying? So the point is, some people are better off. How many sales have been lost by people talking too much? You know, it's like the point is, it's just as being, it's who you are. People get a feeling of who you are by who you're showing up. Make sense? So let's do one last one. I want you to imagine you have 5 kids, okay, 3 dogs and 2 cats, and you have to convince other people around you that you're a worthwhile person to do business with. Otherwise, your 5 kids, 3 dogs, 2 cats will be out on the street starving within a week. No pressure. But I want you to imagine. So imagine in just a moment you're going to meet some people around you, but you have to convince them that you're a worthwhile person to do business with. Otherwise, your 5 kids, 3 dogs, 2 cats will be out on the street. Making sense? Okay, that's enough business. Okay, in this state, shoulders, were they slouched or upright? Most of you are upright, maybe not as upright as when you're meeting your best friend, but upright. Energy in your body, little or lots? You had lots of energy, but maybe toned down a little bit, maybe just a little bit toned down, so you're not seeing hyper. Eye contact, little or lots? You wanting to make eye contact. Facial expressions, frown or more of a friendly smile on your face? More friendly. Maybe not as much as meeting your friend, but still warm and friendly. Okay, interesting. Repeat after me. Something to think about. So the ability to influence other people all really starts in the emotional state we choose to put ourselves in. Now, most people don't consciously choose what emotional state they're in. They sort of are randomly reacting to what happens in their life. For instance, have you ever been driving a car and your favourite song comes on the radio and before you know it, you're singing along, jumping up and down and having a good time. And you pull up at the traffic lights and the person next door sees you singing and you quickly grab your phone. So the point is often we're in all these series of human emotions. If we were to get someone up here on stage and we were to dissect them, like emotionally, as far as get them to list all the emotions they've felt in, say, the last 7 days, and we'll put them up on the flip chart, we'd be able to tell a lot about what someone's life is actually like by just analysing their emotional blueprint. By what emotions they feel on a consistent basis would tell us very clearly whether that's a happy person or a sad person or an angry person or a bitter person or generous. It would tell us, is it true? By what emotion? Now, the unfortunate thing for most people is that they tend to reside in more negative emotions than positive because they are not consciously living. If you were to consciously live, you go, okay, I'm going to choose. Emotional intelligence is choosing what emotional patterns or what emotions we live most of the time in. Does it make sense? Because we all have a choice. Is it true? It's not life is how we respond to things, not how to react to things. We know that to be true. But often we're allowing ourselves to feel a certain lousy emotion that doesn't serve us, doesn't serve our family or friends, that's robbing our life of joy because we don't set a standard. You know, we allow ourselves to get an emotion. Emotions travel in patterns. So one emotion, a bit of doubt, can lead to fear, and fear can lead to frustration, and before we know it, we're in anger. but it all started from something little, and we can spiral out. Does it make sense? So unless we take control of our emotions, so when we start to spiral out, we go, hang on a minute, life's too short, I'm going to change the way that I feel. And I'm going to give you some tools after lunch how to do this. It's very effective, it's very simple, and that you can use, practical things you can use every day life that can make a massive difference. Because these little things that are going to change your life more than the great big strategies, make sense? Because these things you can do immediately on a day-to-day basis and you'll start to see you change. And these are things that are going to enable you to make better quality decisions. True? And you're going to ask yourself better quality questions, because when you're in a different state, things tend to flow to you differently. You behave differently. By changing your physiology, you can change your life. Tony Robbins, who's familiar with Tony Robbins? And Tony was one of my earliest mentors, but if you remember Tony's earliest stories, Tony used to be fat, overweight, serious weight problems, and he had a really poor physiology. One of the things that he did to change his life, he just modeled some successful people that were really fit and strong, and the way that they walk differently. So he changed his physiology to being walking strong and confident and getting healthy and losing weight. By just changing his physiology, it immediately changed the way that he felt about himself. And by changing the way that he felt about himself, he was able to get himself to act and do things differently. So it all started with just changing his physiology. Because you notice some people, by the way they walk, you can tell what that sort of person is about by just the way they walk. Are they confident? Are they going places? Or are they just sort of not really sure, and you can tell they're not really wanting to go, and they don't know, they're lost. Making sense? So our physiology tells, like, it will determine how we feel. And after lunch, we'll go through exactly those things that determine how we feel. And let's say the ultimate was 100% life force energy. He said most people, unfortunately, are living death warmed up. Was his words. In other words, they're operating very low, dense level of energy. Another word for this low level energy might be negative type energy. Tend to be quite negative. Little energy. They're not. In other words, they're usually self-absorbed. Their energy is internal, and it's not being projected out to other people. Okay. And at times, or notice whenever you're being sick, notice how it affects your energy levels. Okay, you feel a different way, and also your thinking changes. Is it true? If you've been sick, you're not thinking as clear or positive. It just changes the way that you think. So you tend to be more prone to negative energy. So a lot of people are basically wasting oxygen and wasting cornflakes, he said, because operating here. He said the key to life is to be able to raise your life force energy, because the things that you want most to be attracted to in your life, whether that's good health, okay, or abundance of money, quality, fulfilling relationships, opportunities in business and things that you want, are all attracted to a certain level of energy. Just like he said, money is a form of energy and vibrates a certain level of energy. If you raise your life force energy, you're more likely to attract these things. He said if your energy is consistently down here, you're more likely to attract negative circumstances, like your car breaks down and you have no money to fix it. Okay, you tend to attract more bills. You tend to attract negative people. You tend to attract bad luck. Some people you tend to manifest things that go wrong all the time. And it's a vibration of the energy. And so when I understood that, it helped me consciously for the first time to start living consciously, go, something to think about. What is my energy projecting out there? And I started being conscious aware of that. I also consciously started being aware of giving more energy. Okay, how can I be there more for other people? How can I project more of the things out there? Confidence, more certainty. Because I project confidence, guess what? I start feeling more confident. Other people see me as confident, and it becomes a spiraling loop that reinforces that. Does that make sense? As opposed to before, I felt a little bit of fear, doubt, sense of rejection, and that would spiral the other way. So by changing that conscious, so doing exercise sometimes like this can help you also understand how do other people perceive your energy. If you want more out of life, we must give more out of life. This weekend's all about how can you become more so you can give more, and then you can be more, and then you can have more. Does it make sense? Okay, but it all starts with you being more, you being at the best you can be, but accepting that you're a human being, you'll make mistakes, that's okay, you'll fail, you won't be perfect. We're not suggesting that you have to be, we're just suggesting you can be more, so how do you help yourself be more and be more on a day-to-day basis? Make sense? It's peak performance. Just like if you were an athlete, we'd be doing the same thing. Is that true? How do we get you to perform at your sport at an optimum level? And you'd have coaches all around you, you'd have strategists, and you'd have an environment that helped you perform at the optimum level if you wanted to be the best at your sport. And it's thinking, how do you apply and do the same thing for your life? Because you only get one shot at life, so you want you performing at the best level. True? And that affects everything you do. I radically changed my diet 20 years ago as well. Does it make sense? Now, I'm not here to tell you how to eat. That's research you can do, okay? And what works for you, everyone's different. But one thing that helped me raise my energy was radically changing my diet. I did my own research, I studied, I looked at things, and many social conditioned things that we thought were healthy for us, that were taught at school, that were taught by society, were not actually accurate. And as a result, my diet improved, my energy levels improved. Who's following what I'm saying here? Okay? Because often we neglect our health, and I can tell you now, if Kerry Packer was still alive, would he trade all his money for health, yes or no? If you are, he would trade it all, he'd trade all the billions. Would Rupert Murdoch, would he trade all his billions to be young again, yes or no? You know, in other words, the most valuable thing, our health. So that is also going to help us become wealthy because we'll have clear thinking, we'll be more positive, we'll be more energetic, we'll be more out there, we want to make things happen. So ultimately, energy is everything. Not just physical energy, but life force energy, because the more that we have to give. And money is nothing more than a form of energy. Raise your life force energy, and you'll find there will more money that will come to you. Making sense? Repeat after me. Something to think about. So what we're going to do is, while you're in your groups, remember back at school, you probably had one or two good buddies, classmates, that you hung out with, and maybe it changed from primary school to high school, etc. So you're at school again. This is a 21st century school, and as a member, you get to come back. With the 5-year membership. For 5 years, keep on doing this, or you can keep on coming. After that, to be in this environment, because every year you're going to learn different things. And who thinks putting yourself in an environment like this for a couple of days once a year would be a good idea? This would be a good idea. What you do is you check in on your progress for the last 12 months, and you reset your goals for the next 12 months. Okay? The only defining difference they could find between millionaires and billionaires is that billionaires would check their goals daily, millionaires only weekly. And people that didn't achieve a lot didn't have goals. Isn't that interesting? Who has written goals right now? Wow. So a higher ratio than if we took an assessment of the average Australian population. Because that's why you're achieving more, or you have written down goals. And there's so much power. If all we did was had you come here and write down your goals, the power that's in that is just when something's taken from the spiritual plane, so to speak, and put on the physical plane, like in writing, there is great power in that. And humans don't always understand the massive power there is by just writing down a goal in the right way, and how that can lead to manifestation many years later that's showing up in their life.